Hey everyone. I noticed that Dracula was here. Are you okay? I heard he was about ready to bite you, but I stopped him in the nick of time. He wanted to, take over my, video review. That's why I became an arch nemesis to Dracula. Make sure he doesn't take over that I own. So, pretty much one of these days I'm gonna find Dracula and ram a stake through his heart. Or cut off his head with my trusty sword. Made of silver, and of course the skull was branded from a skull of the first vampire I slayed with. Anyway, all this aside, let's talk about movies about vampire hunters, shall we? A long time ago, everybody remembered Abraham Van Helsing from the movie Dracula and the books and all. And of course, not many people know that Abraham was Bram Stoker, the author's first name, because Bram was short for Abraham. And he kind of imagined himself as the scientist who is a medical doctor and believe in the supernaturals. Anyway, beside Van Helsing aside, there was a movie that Hammer had made. Now, I know some of you people would thought of Hammer as the Hammer was a British film, and you thought that there might be a lot of Dracula or Frankenstein movies they made, and always have Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. Well, there was a movie they made about a vampire hunter who goes by the name Captain Kronos, Vampire Hunter. In the movie, it's a swashbuckling mystery. So it's a mystery to know who the vampire is, because you don't know who the vampire is in the movie. And it's a swashbuckler, so he's good with the sword. Like, on guard! Anyway, the movie became an inspiration to one of the superheroes in the Marvel comic that nobody never even know of. Since the Marvel comic had seen Captain Kronos, they had an idea of making another vampire hunter character. Of course, there were other vampire hunters, but they're not as big as the one I'm going to tell you today. They base a character from Captain Kronos, but make him more like a Shaft character. You know, make him black to make him more interesting. And then in the 90s, they made this. Blade, the movie, from Marvel. And of course, not many people know, ever since this movie was made, not many people, if that movie wasn't been made, not many people wouldn't even know about the other Marvel superhero movies came before it. Came after it. If that movie wasn't made, we wouldn't even heard about the X-Men, we wouldn't even heard about Spider-Man, or the Incredible Hulk, or Captain America, or Iron Man, or even the Avengers, or even Thor. So if it wasn't for Blade, none of those Marvel superhero movies wouldn't have been known today. And of course in the story, Blade is after a evil vampire who goes by the name of Deacon Frost, who have turned his mother into a vampire. Of course he doesn't know it, but anyway. And then in the sequel, there's a new kind of vampire called Blade 2. And the new kind of vampire, they're indestructible. Their garlic and silver doesn't work on them. And their ribs are as hard as a shell. So a silver or a wooden stake wouldn't penetrate it. It's like trying to drive a wooden stake on a turtle shell. That hard. And of course, he discovered that it's a trap. And then all of a sudden they made this movie, where it's completely from the comics, where they made Blade Trilogy. In this one, Blade is forced to team up with a group of vampire hunters called Night Stalkers, led by Hannibal King. And Hannibal King was based in the comic book. And on this one, the vampire revived Dracula. But instead of calling him Dracula, they call him Drake. And of course, his origin turns out to be older than what we know today. And it was a really good movie, and it was a pretty good showdown. I enjoyed the fight between Blade and Dracula. And after Blade was done, they decided to do a TV series to keep the legacy going. And I have here a pilot on DVD, because I haven't seen the rest of the show. And it didn't star Wesley Snipes, it was starring somebody else. It was called Blade, House of Chthon. Got it from Blockbuster. In this one, he has a new vampire who becomes like his partner. And he starts helping her, trying to find a way to be more human, or use her vampire gift, and not let her thirst for blood overtake her. And now let's get to the hero that I dressed up like, because ever since I saw the movie, I played the video game that Dracula had reviewed, Van Helsing. And to tell you the truth, I beat the video game. From easy to normal to hard, and I also got the extra levels. So pretty much I mastered the vampire hunting named Van Helsing. And here is the movie. I know some of you people don't like Van Helsing. I mean, some of you would say the movie sucked. But I think it's a good movie. I mean, I like it. Because I like Van Helsing's style. Hugh Jackman is not bad of an actor. And of course, Kate Beckinsale, she's cute. Anyway, not many people know that there was a prequel they made. An animated movie they made, Van Helsing, The London Assessment. In this one, it tells the story of how Van Helsing dealt with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And the movie picked up where the animated film left off. And then let's get to this other one I heard. I watched this movie since I was a little kid. And it's called Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It was campy, it was funny, it was silly. I mean, I liked it when I saw it. Oh, and as some of you who were asking, no, I haven't seen the TV series. I haven't seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV series. But what I heard so far, the creator of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, since they know they made this movie as campy and such, he didn't like the movie. He didn't like what they did to his movie. So what he did is he did a comic book teaming up with Dark Horse, and now they did a comic book of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And as the comic book continued on after the movie was over, they decided to do a TV series, and they made a pilot where it's completely based from the actual comic book, the origin of Buffy. I never seen the series, but if I ever jump at the chance, I might be interested. But of course I had to get over Grandma saying that she hates Sarah Michelle Gellar. I mean, she saw her performance on Grudge and don't like her. I mean, she's a good actress, but I guess it was something about her, it kind of rubs my grandma the wrong way. And of course, here's a little shocker here. Now, you know I was a big Batman fan, and I noticed that a vampire hunter can be the Dark Knight himself. That's right. They made an animated movie called Batman vs. Dracula. In this one, the Penguin escapes from Arkham along with the Joker, and all of a sudden, Dracula had risen from his grave because the Penguin found the wrong crypt, and now Dracula rose from the grave and now decided to take over Gotham, and also made Penguin his slave, and he also turned Joker into a vampire. That's pretty creepy, isn't it? A clown vampire. And of course, he's trying to use Vicky Vale to bring back Dracula's wife, named Carmilla. And if you don't know who she is, you should look her up in the books. There's a book called Carmilla. It was written before Dracula. And the guy who does the voice of Dracula, I don't know his name. His name escapes me, but he was in Fargo. He was that blonde guy who says, "No pancake house?" That's right. The guy who, at the end of the movie Fargo, he shot Steve Buscemi and put his body in a wood chipper. That guy. He did the voice of Dracula in the animated movie. And unlike other vampire hunters who found someone who turned into a vampire, they just kill him, Dracula found a cure. Found a way to turn those vampires back to human. But of course it doesn't work on Dracula, because he's older than everybody. So now let's step to the rest of the franchise. I remember watching this when I was a little kid, and it's a cult classic, but everybody loves it. The Monster Squad. And of course the movie was kind of a mixture, like what would happen if the Little Rascals meet the Universal Monsters. And of course Dracula is in it, and he gathers up his army of monsters to rule the world, of course, by using a talisman, and a group of kids know about the talisman and they're trying to stop him. It's a pretty good movie. And of course here's the catchphrase in this movie: "Yes, Wolfman's got nards." If you've seen the movie, you get what I'm saying. And of course, they got a little international all of a sudden. There's, John Carpenter got into the whole vampire mythology as well. So he made his version called John Carpenter's Vampires. In this one, you have James Wood as Jack Crow, the vampire hunter. And, he's chosen to kill this oldest vampire ever lived. And then it got into China, where there's 5 groups of vampire hunters who are driven to kill this oldest vampire ever lived, called Choey Hawks Vampire Hunters. A little funny, kind of silly. It's kind of a mixture between Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but with vampires in it. And of course, Jackie Chan got himself involved in the vampire mythology thing. In this one called Vampire Effect. In this one, there are these 2 people, they're vampire hunters, and there's this one kid who's a good vampire, and he doesn't want to hurt anybody, and he falls in love with a girl. And there's an evil vampire who keeps on coming after all the young vampires to take their youth stone in order to turn into an ultimate vampire. Jackie Chan wasn't much of a big character in this one because it focused on the vampire and the girl and the 2 vampire hunters. And of course, our good vampire, he becomes a hero now. Jackie Chan, he just plays an ambulance driver who all of a sudden sees a bunch of vampires and he starts helping out. And after that, that was it. He just had a brief scene. And then all of a sudden, the Japanese did an anime. All of a sudden. I found Vampire Hunter D. Now, of course, I didn't get the first one because it was full of boobies and all, and I didn't care much about that one. I mean, it was really good, but I wish it didn't have all those scenes with topless women in it. I hate nudity in vampire films. Seriously. But I came across this one that I say was a lot better. Called Vampire Hunter D. Bloodlust. In this one, Vampire Hunter D, he's part human, part vampire. And the reason why he's called D because he's a son of Dracula. And one thing that's different about him, he has a face on his hand. That's right. His hand has 2 eyes and a mouth. And of course, he hunts other vampires. And of course, it was based on manga comics. You know, those Japanese comic book companies. And then they made this movie. It was pretty good. It's about this vampire who meets this girl. He's deeply in love with her. And so is she. It's like a mixture between Twilight and Blade. But don't get me started on Twilight. I mean, I knew sooner or later Dracula is going to complain about Twilight. I don't like it, and neither did he. Anyway, Vampire Hunter D was a good animated film that they made, the Bloodlust one. And of course, it has Carmilla in it. It was really good. And now let's catch on to another Vampire Hunter, based in the animated series. I mean, based on the manga comics, I guess. This anime was called Blood, the Lost Vampire. Lost Vampire. In this one, they have a vampire hunter named Sei. And she looks like a young schoolgirl. But she carries a sword and she's driven to kill every evil vampire known to man. And the animated movie got so good, they decided to do a live-action film. And I have to say, the girl who stars in that movie is really cute. Wow. There's nothing hotter than a schoolgirl with swords. Because... And it was a really good movie, and I love the actress. I mean, it's pretty awesome. If any of you are interested in watching something like this, be my guest. Go right ahead and watch it. And the movie was produced by the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and also made Hero, who made this film. And of course, let's get to another vampire hunter, who is also a Dhampir, and so is the other characters, like Vampire Hunter D and Sei on Blood, the Last Vampire. They're all Dhampirs, and so is this one. And it's based on a video game, and it's called Blood Rain. Starring Kristanna Loken. Heck, I like her on Terminator 3. Anyway, I just wish she stayed on throughout the rest of the movies. But it was based on a video game. She's a Dhampir who is driven to kill this vampire who killed her mother and raped her mother, and that's how she was born. That's how she became a Dhampir. And I say it was a good movie, but it was too bloody, too gory. And it was created by this German director who makes the most crappiest movies. But I say it was okay. I mean, I say it was good, but I mean, it was alright for the movie. And then they made the sequel where now the vampire... I mean, this one was set in medieval time. And the sequel... I didn't catch up to the sequel, no, the third movie. It was set in the Western. And the third one is set in World War II, where now vampires are Nazis. That's one thing I hate the most. Vampire Nazis! I hate that! Anyway, that's my show for the day. And that's all I review right now. And if any of you ever seen Dracula, just let me know. Because I'm driven to stop him. Anyway, if you excuse me, back to my hunting. So, see you next time.